So after a really long work day, I came home and thought to myself, what would feel relaxing and restorative for my soul right now? And it's this. It's recording an episode of Shocks Talks. Why am I like this? I don't know. I have my ideas though. Anyway, hello and welcome back to Shocks Talks. It's Tuesday, September 19th, 2023, and so much has been going on in the world of UFOs and UAPs. I'm Shakti, and on this channel, I'm giving a recap of current UFO UAP events, as well as taking a look at the big picture when it comes to this phenomena. We're going into the past and looking at UFO history starting around the 1940s, and we're looking at the phenomena from a global perspective because sightings have been happening around the world for at least 80 years now. What are world governments doing about all of this? Is the legacy of secrecy dissolving in this internet era? And who are the beings behind the craft? My goal is to read, listen, and watch as much content as I have time for and keep track of the independent research and printed works on this matter because the mainstream media is not the safest place for real information, in my opinion. It's all part of the big news show. What the powers that be want the people thinking about or not thinking about, and it's one thread in this giant tapestry of research and knowledge and data. And there are just so many more threads to follow. So we're going to look at the mainstream, but we're going to look at the independent research. We're going to talk about everything. Right now, we seem to be seeing more effort towards transparency and the investigation and scientific exploration of UFOs than ever before. But things have gotten a little messy lately. On July 26, 2023, the US held a UAP hearing that was groundbreaking. On September 12th, Mexico held a hearing that included the presentation of alleged non-human bodies, and a day later, NASA finally joined the party and released their report done by an independent study team on UAP. The links are below as always. You can watch both hearings as well as explore the reports yourself, but I'm going to go over some highlights. NASA has appointed a director of UAP research, Mark McInerney. I think that's how you say it. It was kind of weird. They said they were going to keep the name of the new director private when they did the briefing and then released it about 7 hours later. And this man previously served as NASA's liaison with the Defense Department for UAP issues. So it doesn't feel like a very hopeful situation in terms of transparency because they haven't been transparent up to now. And why would anything change when it comes to this side of the issue that deals with, potentially advanced technology and weapons development? It all comes down to money and power. So, we'll see where this all goes. NASA claims that they don't know what the UAP are and have not concluded that they are extraterrestrial. They state that life in the universe beyond is highly likely, which is kind of new news to us all in a way. It's been said for a while now, but I remember when I was a kid, they were singing a different tune, and I kind of felt like I was always taught to believe that it seemed like we were so special, and the fact that life originated and developed here was like this huge anomaly in the universe. Now they're kind of saying, no, life is highly likely. With more advanced telescopes and many scientific minds on the matter, NASA is coming out and saying, yes, there is most likely life out there. The universe is huge, so big we can hardly even comprehend the size of it. Bill Nelson kicked off the briefing and Nicola Fox spoke second, reminding everyone that the language of science is data. This is the reason for the new director of UAP research. This director will use AI, machine learning, and space-based observation tools to support this effort. This person will serve as a point of contact for AARO, the government's all-domain anomaly resolution office. Beyond the director and new program, NASA will advance citizen reporting to collect a broader set of data, perhaps through the use of a new app, and this will contribute to the destigmatization of the important study of UAPs. So that part's kind of cool, potentially. It's cool that they're even talking about this at all after so long. It's wild that they're saying this because they obviously know a lot more than they're letting on, but it's a tiny step for disclosure in some ways. The open conversation around the topic is definitely helpful in destigmatizing, and maybe that could lead to more people feeling safe to speak and think about this phenomena. Daniel Evans spoke next in the briefing and started by talking about how important this topic is. NASA is committed to the charting of the uncharted. The first A in NASA stands for aeronautics, so they bring up keeping the sky safe as part of this initiative. This is the whole national security risk side of the argument. We've heard this in the other briefing, the US congressional hearing. Witnesses and government officials are very much concerned with safe airspace, but NASA is restating this almost in a more neutral way. Not They didn't use the words national security risk as far as I know, but they did point to the safety of our airspace being one of their concerns. Evans openly states that NASA is committed to transparency. They reiterate this point many times throughout the briefing. He says that by embracing a scientific lens, they are assuring that this is all data-based research. It's truly mind-blowing to hear these people talk, and especially after all these years of silence. But here we go. Let's see where this leads. Next up, they had David Spergel. He talks about the panel's study, which has led to several crucial findings. In terms of the current data, he acknowledges the stigma and the fact that this means we definitely have missing data, as in, had we not placed such a stigma on this topic, more official reports could have been filed. The goal now is to create a robust set of data. It's essential to clarify, based on current findings, that NASA has not concluded that any of the UAP are extraterrestrial. And this is another thing that they stated many times. Like, we don't know what it is. We don't know what it is, but we're going to find out. And when we do, we're going to tell you. So, we'll see. There was a Q&A. James Fox from Independent Media asked, how can you say what something is not when you say that you don't know what it is? And Bill Nelson just answered by restating, we don't know what they are. He says, we are going to try to find out. Fox asked if there was a plan in place to tell the public if they do find anything from other planets or of extraterrestrial origin. Nelson says his own belief is that there is most likely other life that could be similar to us. And he says, whatever we find, we will tell you. We'll see. So go watch the NASA briefing if you want. It's really exciting. It is all very new that these organizations are changing their tune, and after decades of silence and secrecy, they're coming out and talking about the topic. So that's definitely interesting. We're all going to have to stay tuned, and not just to this one layer of the media, but to all the work that's been going on since the 40s. Let's keep an eye on the smaller movements in the background of all of this. The latest episode of Weaponized covers this NASA briefing, as well as they get into Mexico a little bit too. And they always have some interesting perspectives. That's Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. There are countless hours of interviews and lectures with people like Richard Dolan, who I love, on YouTube. And in case we ever face a day when the internet is no longer available to us for any reason, there are so many great books full of research and reports. People to check out include Jacques Vallée, Yvonne Smith, Graham Hancock, Nick Pope, Avi Loeb, Leslie Kean, Alan Hynek, Bud Hopkins, Whitley Strieber, Linda Moulton Howe, George Knapp, George Norrie, Stephen Greer, and the list goes on. So I think it's important for me and anyone else interested in this topic to develop our own understanding slowly and methodically over time, because there will always be certain groups who are seeking to manipulate our minds when it comes to learning the truth about anything important, especially information that could free us from control. And who knows if this is that, but a lot of people suspect that the reason for the secrecy has something to do with power and control. And it's just not hard for me to leap to that conclusion myself, but I'll stay open, open. Skeptical, but open. Are there keys in the UFO topic for the leveling up and empowerment of humankind? Are there helpful technologies that are being kept from us? Is there a secret science that we are not privy to? Would learning the truth about this topic expose other truths that some are guarding closely? Seems probable to me. Are ETs good? Are they evil? Are they working with humankind on some level? Are there underground bases? Have humans hacked the tech yet? We don't know, but we want to find out. In terms of the Mexican hearing, it was an international panel of witnesses, but what everyone has been talking about and joking about are the alien bodies that were shown. You've probably seen the cake memes by now. Is it cake? Those were great. These bodies are not new news to some people in the field, and they are not the only non-human specimens we've heard about. Instead of getting caught up in Jaime Maussan's questionable past or the strangeness of these little bodies, I think we need to be excited about the fact that what could be evidence is being shared publicly, and now more scientists can analyze it potentially. Maybe we're setting a new precedent where we bring anomalous evidence forward in a public space and offer it up to multiple different research groups to analyze. These may or may not be real, these bodies that we saw, but I don't think it was a dark evil agenda personally. I just think that sometimes there's going to be questionable evidence as we go down this road, and having it out in the open is great. When I was at Contact in the Desert 2023, there was an ancient archaeology panel, and there were also other lectures I attended that showed pictures or 3D printed renders of anomalous biological specimens. And there were reports of different archaeologists being given, various bones or body parts from kind of like, what would you call it? Rogue explorers, I guess, who found this stuff and either sold it or handed it over for analysis. So there's little rumors and stories of things. And of course, Grush alluded to biologics at the US hearing. So, the idea of bodies being out there is not new. I can't imagine a moment where any group comes forward and says, like, here is the evidence and this is it, and we've analyzed it, and then we all just feel like, oh, good, we know all the answers now, and now we know what's going on. I don't think that's going to happen. So we just got to keep an eye on these things. There's a lot of evidence. We need to create a culture that promotes the study of these things across like many different disciplines and includes a lot of different scientists, and we just have to keep it going, keep it rolling. So I'm not too stressed about the Mexico thing. It was interesting. It was a little bit sensational, a little bit exciting and kind of weird. People are obviously laughing about it. Some people think it's a distraction tactic. For me, I think it's just a very excited ufologist trying to get things going, take it to the next level. That's just me. There's just a lot of evidence that exists beyond the boundaries of our tidy package of understanding when it comes to our history, our evolution, and what we think we know. We need to stay open and create a more curious and transparent scientific community in general. Was this step helpful towards that goal? Maybe not the most, but maybe not the worst either. So there have been reports of alien bodies since the 40s, and remember, Grush alluded to them as well, like I said before, and we really want to find out what is being kept secret when it comes to what he called biologics. So hopefully we'll see some movement on that front eventually. Since so much has been hidden, this could be a step towards normalizing anomalous biological evidence and presenting it in a formal way, but unfortunately, this version of it is just not being taken too seriously. So apparently this specimen is also problematic in ways, according to Jeremy Corbell. I'm not sure exactly what he meant by that, but he said something like, you don't have to dig very deep to see why this piece of evidence is problematic. So I didn't feel too compelled to look into it because I feel like it's not that important, honestly. I've linked the hearing below, but what I want to do today is go back into the theories as we start to explore more about abduction and contact. So let's talk about abduction. I'm working my way through the book Chosen by Yvonne Smith. This is a book that includes many accounts of hypnotic regression sessions that she had with clients over the years. She is an abduction researcher. And as I go through these various abduction cases, I'm starting to realize there are some common themes. A lot of the experiences seem to be very dreamlike in a way because there is often an element of repressed memory, some feeling of mind control, telepathy, and really unexplainable happenings like being lifted in a beam of light or moving through walls. But there are also physical components to what is going on. People often end up with strange marks on their bodies. Sometimes implants are removed and analyzed. Sometimes there are long-term health effects, and there is often a lot of trauma and disruption to their lives. Strangely, even those who suffer trauma often reach their own place of peace when it comes to the phenomena, and sometimes they even seem to be better off in weird ways after the events as they develop a bigger picture understanding of reality. Debra Jordan-Kauble is one abductee who says it makes her feel good to know there is more life out in the universe. So, Debra, I came across her story. I think I've encountered it a few times over the years, but most recently I was listening to the Richard Dolan show on YouTube, and he has an interview with her. I linked it below, and you should probably check it out firsthand, but I'll try to recap what I remember and what stood out to me. Her main abduction event occurred in the 80s and included an encounter that was both physical and phenomenal. She left her mom's house one night and got a strange phone call a little while later. And that was her mom calling her back, saying she was feeling nervous about possible intruders. And Debra makes the point that it was the tone of her voice that was pretty alarming that caused her to go back and investigate. So she goes back, she grabs a shotgun, which is not loaded, but she's thinking she might whack someone in the head if anybody's lurking around, and she starts to investigate the grounds. She lost memory in time, but a few days later, she starts to recall what happened. She went out to the pump house near their pool and got hit with some kind of energy beam. She felt hot all over. She kind of described it as like a hot flash. And she had flashes in her eyes, like when a camera flashes too bright and kind of blinds you for a few seconds afterward, and you see that kind of strobing light in your eyes. She had that effect from the light. She saw some beings who she kind of thought were children at first because they were so small. And she saw an egg-shaped craft that seemed in her mind too small for anyone to be traveling through space in. So, and this is interesting to me because, you do hear reports of everything from orbs just floating in the air to football field sized aircraft carrier style UFO mega ships, and then everything in between, So this was like a smaller situation. Later in life, kind of as a last resort, because this thing was very disruptive to her life, she ended up reaching out to and working with Bud Hopkins. And he's a famous artist, author, ufologist, and alien abduction researcher. So he helped her recall more of what happened. And I believe he wrote her book, or the book about her. And there's also, I think, maybe a movie and a documentary that features her. And the link to the documentary is in Richard Dolan's video if you check that out. She realized, as many do, that there were more incidents throughout her life, and there was physical evidence in her body of scarring around her reproductive organs. Some pretty anomalous scarring, it's a little inconclusive, but some strange stuff that was detected by a doctor. She also saw an eye doctor who, when he examined her eyes, asked if she had looked into the flame of an arc welder because that's what the damage looked like. And you're never supposed to do that. Of course, she hadn't done that. So apparently whatever light flashed in her eyes did have a physical effect on her body. And throughout her life, she became very brave as a result of all of this strange experience. She doesn't seem to have a strong opinion on whether or not these beings were bad or good. She did feel afraid of them for a long time and did not want this to happen again, and, wasn't like a good feeling experience. And she does believe that there are aliens after having this experience, but she's not really sure what it all means, or at least that's what it seems like to me. It's interesting that in some ways there seems to be a common dreamlike quality to these abductions for many people. Things like they see the eyes of the alien sort of floating out in front of them in their own mind's eye. And this has been reported more than once in the materials I've been reading. Many experience telepathic communication from the beings, and often some level of mind control and or memory wiping. Some experience memory implants, or what they call screen memories, and this is a false memory that is placed over top of a missing time segment or a repressed memory. And some people are able to recall everything through hypnotic regression. Some people who go through hypnotic regression do come up against a wall or a block where, things are too emotional and too scary and they can't really access the experience. So it's very fascinating, a bit unsettling, but I do take heart as I learn more and more about abductees who survive the trauma and find peace somehow. One of the things, and I linked Debra's website below as well, and one of the things I read on there was, and she was talking about this in the video too, that she does seem to have more heightened senses and like a more clear understanding of a deeper level of reality, and it seems like she feels pretty positive about that. And this is something that a lot of contactees, abductees, and experiencers report, either psychic abilities that start to happen later in life for them, heightened senses, more telepathic abilities. Sometimes they just have a deeper sense of peace. They feel that they understand reality on a deeper level. And this is also very similar to people who have a near-death experience. So maybe that part of the phenomena is just as simple as like going through a really severe trauma, and as a result of that, coming out the other side feeling a little more like alive or tuned into deeper levels of reality. Or maybe it has something to do with the actual alien abduction or whatever they're doing to these people. Who knows? The big questions in my mind are these beings interdimensional, or are they like primarily physical the way that we are? Are we interdimensional? Is our understanding of reality too limited? Is there scientific discovery that relates to all of this that is being kept from the public? Do humans have agreements with any aliens or non-humans that allow for abduction, or is it just happening? So, like, are there groups of humans, maybe secret groups or government groups, that are working with aliens? Some people think that's going on. Do abductees have any special traits that make them desirable, or is it just random? Is abduction about science? And if so, is it related to genetics or a hybridization program? And of course, is it possible that all of this is something that could help us in the end? We can only hope and continue to listen to all the stories as time goes on. So that's all I've got for you today. We'll continue exploring more on this topic in future episodes. Thanks as always for taking the time to listen to Shocks Talks. I am having a lot of fun making these episodes and this channel, and I hope to get better and better over time. If you like it, do all the things, like, share, subscribe, please, and thank you. And next time I'll try to bring someone or something new into the conversation, and I'm thinking maybe that'll be Eve Lorgan and her alien love bite theory. As always, the links are below, and I'll see you next time.